Greetings, Internet. Since I've moved to England for a couple of months now, I think it's time for the obligatory video on the culture shock of moving to a different country. Or in this case, rather, the shock of, things not being as you have seen them on the BBC. The first thing anybody moving to the UK is going to encounter is, of course, the notorious bureaucracy. Like any bureaucracy from the old world is going to be complicated and unnecessarily time-consuming. But man, no one told me how complicated it was going to be here in Murray, England. This started right out when I was getting the visa. So with working visa, essentially you have to present all your credentials for taking up the job. So in my case, all the certificates from my bachelor degree, master degree, PhD has to be presented. Not necessarily to the consulate, but to a separate body of government that has to certify the said certificate and then write out this letter on paper and then send them to me so that I can hand in this 4 separate pieces of paper to the Home Office so that I can get the visa. And all this takes an additional month. And if that looks like to be the last of the trouble, wait until you try to open a bank account. The problem everybody's going to have moving to a new country is the problem of having a proof of residency and also the proof that you have money. So in order to get, a rent, you usually have to show to your landlord that you can actually pay for your rent. And this usually means that you would have to have a bank account inside the country. Then to get a bank account inside the country, you usually need a proof of residency, which means that you actually have to have rented a room. So how then do a newcomer break this catch-22 loop? Usually it's broken at the bank. It usually takes some kind of documentations that gives you the reason why you're in the country. If you come because you're studying in school, usually your university or your school has to provide some kind of documents that show to the bank where you are, like where you're going to be studying physically, as some kind of proof of residency, so that you can use that to open a bank account. That is not so when you're doing a work visa. It becomes a lot more complicated. I have to get an exception from the bank. The letters from my employer, who is a big university, like physically, financially, in terms of reputation as well, is not enough for the bank to open a bank account for me. I was like, wow, I have never seen this happen before. How do all the Russian billionaires open the bank account here in London? So the second thing that kind of comes up also happened in this first one. As I was trying to, get the health insurance because, also because of bureaucracy, I'm not actually covered by the NHS just because of how short my stay in the UK actually is. So I was trying to get coverage by private insurance, and for a hot second, it looks like I found a perfect match in a policy by a prominent health insurance company. It turns out not to be so because, as it turns out, my work appointment was not extended. And as it turns out, if my work appointment is not extended up to a year, they cannot provide me with the health insurance, which is very weird because at that time I've already paid the total amount for the policies for the entire bloody year. Which raised the question of whether the English actually knows how to do capitalism at all. Like, honestly, I was just throwing money at them for the privilege of being able to access their service if I so happen to need it in the upcoming 6 months or even less. I'm willing to pay for the entire year for this. And no, they did not take that money. They give me my money back. It's as if Adam Smith was not one of their people, which, as I found out, actually he was Scottish. So I do apologize. He's not English. And by the way, Scottish peoples are a lot better at selling things, so they do know how to do capitalism up there. Totally brilliant. Number 3 that comes out from, trying to get stuff done outside of working hours if possible is that nothing is actually open after working hours. Yes, you heard me right. Like, most of the places outside London, which is a big metropolitan area, shops are closed at about 5 or 6 p.m. And when I mean closed, it's really closed. It's quiet. With the exception, of course, of pubs and restaurants and theaters. Which would probably explains thing number 4, which is there is abundance of alcohol around here, and the British people are really, really good at drinking alcohol. Good job, mate. And talking about things that people know about Britain, we know that British people like drinking tea. As it turns out, the average tea that you would find in like coffee shops around here are actually not impressive at all. And I'm saying this being completely aware that this might not be a fair comparison at all, because I'm comparing this with the experience of coming from Calgary, which is like a city of 1 million people. So of course there is a lot more chance that we would have cafes with like, really good selections of tea. But at the same time, I'm in a university that, serves like students who obviously have, money to spend. And still, the selection of tea are very limited, and some of them are just bad. I mean, come on, you could do better than this. Aside from tea, I also found that hot chocolate and coffee are also, I don't know how to put the descriptions into words. They're just weak would be the adjectives that I would use for the 2 beverages. But you may say, but you already know the British food are terrible, like it's a stereotype. Well, no, actually British food are delicious, basically based on the fact that they're fresh. Mostly, like, I can just eat fried eggs straight off, the cooking pan, basically with no ketchup, no sauce, no salt or pepper whatsoever. They're just that good. In comparison to, eggs in Canada, where I basically have to squish the ketchup down there because they just smell. Do not trash British food, because there are good stuff around here now. No matter what happens in the past with all the chicken feet and chicken heads and coffin pies and things like that, they are good things. And for example, the very good thing that I found around here, of course, is biscuits. Well, technically this is shortbread, but of course there's a variety of biscuits. And they are delicious, so of course I'm gonna use this as Exhibit A. And if you are a craft soda snob like I am, abundance of sodas. Just like, dude, the amount and variety and deliciousness of ginger beer here would beat the root beer over in the United States, I can tell you. And lemonades, like, this used to be like the summer beverage in Canada, where I come from. I can get it everywhere all the time. I'm so happy. And this one favorite tree, my favorite, used to be my favorite in Canada as well. After basically 1 bottle of ginger beer, I found that they have more than just ginger beer, which is glorious. Still not very easy to find, but whatever, I can still find them. And also cakes. Like, British people are really good at making cakes. There's a reason why the Great British Bake Off has to be the Great British Bake Off, not the Great Canadian Bake Off, right? It's not because it doesn't have the ring to it, it's just because this is where they know how to bake, okay? So yeah, those are the few things that I found surprising since I moved here to United Kingdom. I'm pretty sure I forgot a lot of other stuff that also happened to me in the meantime. So if you are an international student, or you know, an international researcher who moved here to the UK and noticed something, leave that down in the comments. I just want to know what you noticed as well. Yep, so that will be the end of the video. Ciao, everyone.